idea. I'm not sure that was a great idea because it's got all these emotions stirred up. Chris texted me last Sunday and asked me if I would do this, and I thought, well, man, I just told him at my dad's funeral I don't want anything to do with this, and he just didn't listen and asked me to do it anyway. And it was the right timing because Jake and Holly can tell you there are dear friends that spend a lot of time with us at our house, and we've been talking a lot about being pulled, things in my life that are starting to change. That I thought, that I know that my dad left me. I'm sorry, this first part's going to be hard for me. I'm standing in a spot that the greatest man of God I've ever known stood for over 40 years. And I just miss him. I just miss him. Okay, I'm going to get through this. I don't, Chris knows the Bible. He's a lot smart. He's always been smarter. I mean, he's the one that got me through high school and kept me on the basketball team. We all know that story. I've asked God, I prayed and asked God when Chris asked me to do this, what do you want me to say? I don't know how to do this. I watched my dad do it, and he would spend days and hours upstairs in his office and preparing a message, and I'm just not like that. I'm more of a shoot from the hip kind of person. So I asked God, what do you want me to say? There's a couple of people that I wish were here because I think this message was for them, and hopefully they're hearing it wherever they're at. So why am I a Christian, and what does that mean? So everyone in here knows the story of Jesus and how he died for you on the cross, died for our sins, and then he rose again, and he's seated at the right hand of God, and we're going to see him again one day. He did die for our sins, and we all sin still every day. We're saved, we sin. But because he died on the cross for us, those sins are forgiven every day. It's, we talked about, I think some of you were here last Sunday when I talked about there were some people that used to be at church at NAB who would come to church and do really good and thrive, and then they would get off the path a little bit and maybe sin some, and then, I can't go back to church. I'm a sinner. I can't do this. And then they would take 2-3 year absences and then come back and try it again and do well for a little bit and then slip up and leave and be gone for years and years. And wasted all of those years because they couldn't see, I'm forgiven every single day. Every single day. I don't have to be perfect. As a Christian, we don't always do the things that we're supposed to do. Everybody thinks, oh, well, you're a Christian, and you're under a microscope when you say you're a Christian because everybody says, oh, look at you. You're doing this and you're doing that. As Christians, our job is to just let his light shine through us every day in everything that we do, okay? What does it mean? You hear that, let his light shine through us. What does that mean? Well, I know that I have an opportunity a lot of times to let that shine, and I don't always do it. Most of the time it's driving down the interstate when I'm behind a semi-driver that's in the left lane doing 67. My light is not shining, and I can promise you that. No offense, Jeff, to semi-drivers. I love you guys. But it's not just that. It's your day-to-day life. It's the people that you work with. It's the people that people you're around, your neighbors. Stephanie can tell you. I mean, we have Jake and Holly because we were neighbors. Everywhere that we've gone, everywhere that we've lived, we have become close with our neighbors, and our neighbors love us. We love our neighbors. We have very good people that surround us, and that's just a blessing that God has given us. Everywhere we've gone, we've been blessed to have good people. So it's easy for me to love my neighbors. I know some of you have some neighbors that you really would rather just wring their neck than pray for them, but that's the way it is. Sporting events. God, so I'm not picking on all you. I want you to know that's where I fall short a lot. Especially when I'm watching my kids play basketball and there's a referee who I don't agree with. I don't always let my light shine through. Okay? Your marriage, your relationships with your sisters and your brothers and your mom and dad. I'm working on that one. I love my sisters fiercely. I'd hurt somebody over them. I would hurt. I think I tried to do that one of those times when I wasn't letting my light shine. I think we were at a Buffalo Wild Wings watching a basketball game, and some guy had said something to Joanne. It was right after she had the incident with the Bell's palsy, and he mouthed off to her. And I wasn't going to show him my light. I was getting ready to show him my right hook, but thankfully the manager stepped in and took care of it and got him out. But that's how I've always been. If you mess with my mom and dad, if you wrong them, I'm going to have something to say to you, and it's not going to be pretty. If you mess with my sisters, it's going to be the same thing. I'm working on my brother. God's going to have to give me it's going to take a lot of prayer. Like I said, do we always let our light shine every day like we're supposed to? No, we don't. We don't always do that, but we don't have to be perfect. You can let your light shine. You don't have to always be perfect, but you have to always be ready when God puts you in a perfect situation to let that shine. Think about, the kid that is the backup quarterback who never gets in the game, but he has to be ready. He has to always be ready, because at some point in time, there's going to be a possibility that he's going to get his chance to shine, to get out there and shine, and he has to stay ready. So even though you're not the person standing up here preaching, or you're not the person that's in charge of this committee or that committee, or, have lots of stars and everything by your name, you have to be ready all the time. Because at some point in time, your moment to shine is going to come through. And it may be talking to a lady outside who's mowing grass, who's going into the hospital. When we came in here that Sunday, and I didn't want to talk to that lady. And I told Chris, I said, Lord, she has on a shirt that says I have big bobbers or something. And the Lord said, bring her in here and pray for her. And I was like, I ain't going to talk to her. I'm not doing that. And then I sat there through the entire song service, and God was saying, really? I just told you to do something, and you're not going to do it? So reluctantly, I went out and got the lady. We prayed for her. I don't know. Maybe she'll come back. Maybe she won't. Maybe she'll go to church somewhere. Maybe her life changed because of that day. I don't know. But all I know is that God put me in a perfect opportunity. And I reluctantly listened, but I did it. I did it. You don't have to be perfect, because God loves us unconditionally all the time. Everyone here that's married or has been married or been in a relationship of any type like that, sometimes you get mad at each other. Sometimes you say things or do things, say things you're not supposed to your spouse, and walk off and slam doors and ignore them and things like that. That's not unconditional love. That's not. You still love your spouse but that's not unconditional love. You forgive them right then and move on. That's what God does for us. He doesn't slam the door and walk away and go sit in his room and fold his arms and go, God, I'm so mad at Michael. He never does what I tell him to do. He doesn't do that. He says, hey, you messed up, but I still love you. Be ready for the next chance. It's coming. Okay? As a Christian, what does it mean to be a Christian? How does that benefit me as a Christian? You have, the moment that you become a Christian, you have a Father that will do anything above and beyond for you, give you anything that you ask for. You have power. You have a power that you've never known. Some people, have been in this their whole life. Some people are new to this. I talked about when we moved over to Keith Street, and I called my dad and said, Dad, come over and pray over the property. Do that. And he said, okay, and he came and did it. And then when we moved over to Sharon Drive, I said, Dad, I need you to come over and pray over the property. And he said, why do you keep calling me and asking me to do this? And I was like, well, because that's what you do when you get a new house. You pray over it. And he was like, no, but I know you do that, but why are you not doing it? Why are you asking me to do it? You have the same power that I have. And I was like, I do? Really? I don't feel like I do. Because when I'm sick, I call my dad, Dad, will you pray for me? Mom, pray for me. I can pray for myself. It just always felt better when Dad did it. I think his line was just, his cell phone reception was a little bit more clearer than mine. But you have that. You do have that when you get saved. When you accept Jesus in your life, when you acknowledge that he is the King of Kings, you have that power in you immediately. You have authority over evil spirits. You have authority over day-to-day stuff. The devil tries to attack you in every single way that you can possibly imagine, and you don't even know it. Things that he puts in your mind, things that he wants you to think about, things that say, if that person says this is what you say to them. He's always in your ear saying, do this and do that, and loving when you listen to him. But you don't have to do that. Because you're saved, you don't have to do that. God can watch over you. God can watch over your thoughts. God can watch over your mouth, which he probably needs to do a little bit more with me. But, as you get saved and you become a new Christian, you do have that power. You're just not, it's not that you're not strong, you don't know how to use that power. You don't know what authority that you have. There was someone that I wanted to hear this part. I think Chris and I had a conversation, and we were talking about a pastor that came here, and he said, I love the people at that church, and I love coming there, but I always get this feeling that it's just this, well, we're just a little old poor church. We're always going to be small and tiny and never succeed, and that's not what God intended for us. When Jennifer said something about, I heard the rumors too. I heard people say, well, they're not going to make it. The pastor's gone. Chris can't do this. The church is going to fold. They're going to shut the doors. That's not what God has planned for this church. And it's our job as the members of this church to go out and build this up. Chris can't do this by himself, right? We all have it in us. I talk about, you often hear me say, well, my dad left me this outgoing where I can talk to everybody, and he did. But my mother has that exact same thing. So when I talk about him, it's the both of them that gave that to us. And I'm thankful that she had that, because 48 years ago, she went a quarter of a mile down the road and witnessed to a very young couple that was living there beside at the time was the Church of Nab. Had she not done that, I wouldn't have a best friend of 48 years, 47 going on 48 years. That was something that God had planned, and still going on, still my best friend, and he's still going to come to church one day. because I've had him here for 47 years, and I don't want to go on without him. Sorry. He is my best friend, and I get very emotional about him. Sorry, I'm trying to find my place here. So when you start in your new walk with the Lord, you have that power over authorities, over principalities. Can you move mountains? I don't know. Chris talked about last Sunday. Like I don't even want to see mountains move. I have no desire to see mountains move. Can I make the stars align? Probably not. Probably not as a brand new Christian. You have the power to do it. You probably just don't have the know-how. And there are people here that have been doing this a long time that can walk you through that. But don't get discouraged, you people that are new in this. Your day is coming. You're going to get there. You're going to have the power and the knowledge how to use that power one day. You just stay the course. That power that you have, what does that power do for you? It does a lot of different things besides let you have govern over the enemy. Health. Talk about your health. You have the ability to pray and ask God for healing. And God can heal you, and God will heal you. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen as fast as we think it should. In a perfect world, we would have seen a miracle, and my father would have been healed and still been here with us today. That wasn't in God's plan. And, we watched him go through that, and he had the fall, and it kind of expedited everything. We were blessed that we didn't have to see the ugly side of that disease, what it could have been and what it could have done. Joanne talked one day about, barring a miracle, we know that this is what's going to happen. So we knew it was coming. He knew. And God could have healed him if he wanted him to. But God just wanted him home. That's all. That's all that was. It wasn't anything that my dad did wrong or wasn't holy enough or anything like that. It was just his time to go home and be with God. That's it. Your daily life, your money, your finances, you hear people. You talk about divorce and dissension in families and marriage, and most of the time it has to do with money, with things that, when money's not there and you argue and fight, and it is the root of all evil, but it's a great thing to have if you have it. They say money can't buy happiness, but I don't know if you've ever picked up a brand new pair of Jordans off the top shelf and $250, but it makes you pretty happy. You can when you have God. Brad, my brother-in-law, is a money guy. He's been a controller at several companies. He knows money. A lot of times when I have questions about stuff, I'll reach out to him and call Brad because he just knows that stuff. And Brad has taught his kids about that, and I think for the most part they're 99% successful, your kids. But Brad instilled that in his kids at an early age and taught them to give, to tithe. Those are things my kids, I don't even know if they know what the word tithe is, which we haven't done a great job at. But those are things that I'm not getting into the whole tithing thing. That's I'm just saying, God is. If you put God in control of your money and your finances, it can't get screwed up. It can't get messed up. If you are giving like God tells you to give, and you are giving with a joyful heart, Lord loves cheerful. Lord loves a cheerful giver, Mom. If you're doing that, your finances can't be messed up. The devil has no authority. He can't come in, and he loves it when you're going, oh my gosh, are we going to eat ramen noodles this week, or how are we going to pay are we going to pay electric bill, or are we going to have water? You want lights or water? Which one? He loves that. He loves when you're in that situation. But that's not what God intended for you. When you got saved and you said, I accept the Lord as my Savior, at that moment, you have the ability to have your lights and water and to have money in the bank and put money in the savings that you could, because God will give you that. You know, one of my favorite things that my mom's always said, which I joke about it now, but it does make sense. When you have, when Jesus becomes the Father of your life, the Bible says, my Father owns what? 1,000 cattle on 1,000 hills. Now, I was thinking about this the other night when I read this. The cattle market is pretty high right now. I think probably a 1,100-pound steer is about $2,000 on the hoof. So if you were to do the math, 1,000 cattle on 1,000 hills times $2,000 a head. I don't know if President Biden can give that much money away. I mean, he'll try it, but I don't know if he can. That's a lot of money. That's you know, take care of a lot of people with that amount of money. Yeah.
That was, Dad took that scripture when we lived in Charlestown, and we were so poor we didn't hardly pay attention. But anyway, we had this great big freezer that the man next door sold to us for $25 if they didn't use it anymore. And so we said, now we've got a freezer where we have 2 chickens and a half-gallon rice thing in that very big freezer. And Dad said, when we just started believing the Lord for some meat to put in that freezer, he said, you know, my father owns 2 cattle. So that's what I got to call him.
That's-
So we vowed together and prayed for the Lord to meet with that preacher. Probably about a month later, he was doing the Bible study up this way in Marysville, and a guy who was in Congress said, the Lord told me to give you a meat. When we said it, when we put it in the freezer, it was
All the way to the top.
all the way to the top. So my kids grew up on T-bone steaks, and we got that's the God that he served.
Yep, that's right. The other thing that you have when you have this power, obviously, you know, we talked about the praying for the protection of your property. You have that. We go on vacation. We go camping. We pull out of our neighborhood with our camper in tow, and immediately our prayer is, God, watch over our house, watch over our belongings. Don't let anything happen. You know, because sometimes we've been camping, there have been some pretty ugly storms back home, and we're like, well, I'm not sure. Did we put the umbrella down? Is the trampoline, well, one night we didn't get the trampoline buckled down, and it was in the neighbor's fence, so. But no, not too much harm. You have the ability to have God watch over your property. One of the most important things that you have, though, is with that power, you have the ability to ask God to watch over your children. We had that growing up. Our dad always, mom and dad, they always, you know, prayed that over us, protection. You know, there was things that I wanted to do as a teenage boy and go and do things and run and be wild. And my dad had this connection that he just knew that I was going to be in trouble. And sometimes he would let me go do things, and sometimes he would say, no, you're not going. And one night we were all supposed to go out, and I'm staying here, and you're staying there, and we're all lying to our parents where we're staying, and we're going to go have fun and do crazy stuff. And my dad said, you're not going. And I said, but why? We talked about this all week. And he said, I don't know why, but you're just not going. And I was like, oh, I was so mad at him because they were going to go out and have fun. And they did. And they went out and had fun. I don't know how much fun they had running from the police, but three of the 5 of them ended up in jail that night. And I was at home in my bed asleep. So protected, because my dad had that, and he prayed that over us. And you have that over your kids, you have that over your grandkids, your entire line. You can pray that over them, and that's so important. Not that it wasn't important back then, because it was. It kept me out of a lot of trouble. But today, with the things that are going on in this world, the filth that is running rampant in this world, you got to have that over your kids today. I mean, they are in schools where people can teach them things and tell them things and put things in their minds that you have zero control over. But if you have God watching out for them, they won't be put in those situations. If you believe that and stand on that, God won't let that happen. That's the power that you have. Sorry. When you have that power, so every one of us is saved because someone else talked to us. Someone else shared with us, everyone in here. And you have that same ability to go out and do the same thing. And if you do that, like we said, bring one person, and that person brings one person. Chris and I were talking. I remember times at NAB when it was so full. It was just packed. And then I remember times at NAB when it was, you could lay down in the aisles, and I mean, in the seats and not touch anybody. Very, very scarce times. But it's our job as the church to go out and witness to people. Well, what if I'm not outgoing like you? I'm not outgoing. I can't go talk to people. You don't have to be outgoing. You can just pray for people. You can reach out to them, your neighbors. You can make phone calls. You can walk around through the neighborhood and pass out tracts. You don't have to be face-to-face with people. Like I said, God will put you in the perfect situation for you, right? God's not going to tell, I don't know who's the most quiet person, Andrew. Andrew's super quiet. Andrew's not going to go out and talk to strangers. God's not going to put Andrew in a situation where he's like, hey, Andrew, I want you to go out and knock door to door and tell people about Jesus. And Andrew's going to be like, I wouldn't even do that in my living room. I'm sure not going to go door to door and do that because that's not his personality. That's not who he is. I could probably do that. I'm not scared of people. But there will come a time that God will put Andrew in a situation where he has the ability to talk to someone or share, and he has to be ready. God, he, like I said, he'll get us. He'll give us that situation that we're supposed to be in. He will use each and every one of us in his own way. What's perfect for you? The gifts that Jennifer's been given may not be the same gifts that my wife has. You have to be in tune. You have to talk to God and say, hey, what do you want me to do? I don't live my life perfectly. I do not, by any stretch of the imagination, live my life perfectly. In fact, there's been a lot of nights that I've had talks with Jesus over a bottle of bourbon, which is my favorite thing in the world. And I feel like, is this even real? Are you really talking to me? I'm sitting out here drinking bourbon. And God doesn't care about that. God doesn't care if you're in a shirt and tie or what you're wearing. He cares about your heart. Not what building you're in, not if you're at the fancy church that has all the fancy equipment and in the big paved parking lot and all the to-dos and the coffee shop in the front and all of that. There's great people there at those churches too. There's a lot of great people there that are going to heaven. And there's a lot of people there that are there to see people and make sure that someone knows that everybody see me putting my check in here. This is my money going in. My big check's going in there. There's a lot of that, and that goes on at every church. Not just big churches. That happens everywhere. But God loves you, wants you to be. He'll tell you where he wants you to be. You'll know where you're supposed to be. Stephanie and I went to a church that at that season was the right place for us, and that season ended. And we had to listen and pray about what we were supposed to do, where we were supposed to go. And I feel like we're listening and doing the right thing, right, honey? When you become saved, when you become a Christian, that's the moment when you're asking God to come and live into your heart. It doesn't mean you have to be at every church service. It doesn't mean you have to change everything. I think about a story I heard not too long ago. A guy was sharing, and he said a young man came in, and he was being witnessed to, and he said, well, if I get saved, do I have to stop smoking weed? And the pastor looked at him and said, no, absolutely not. He said, and the other pastor looked at the pastor and said, I'm sorry, what? He said, no, you don't have to quit smoking weed. You don't have to quit drinking. You don't have to quit smoking cigarettes. You don't have to do any of that stuff. All you have to do is just build your relationship with God. And when you do that, the rest of that stuff will. He'll take those desires out of your heart. And one day you'll look up and be like, man, it's 2023. I hadn't smoked weed in 6 years. I didn't even know it. When am I saved? How do I know that I'm saved? You know in your heart, but the moment that you believe that Jesus is who he says he is, that's when you become saved. When you say, I know that you are who you say you are, and I want you to come and live in my heart. That's when you know. And think about this. You know, we need people to do things in the church. The church has needs. You know, we have work days. We have people that handle finances, people that do sound, people that commit themselves to praise and worship. Everyone has a job, and we have those needs in church. Okay, you don't have to be in church every time the doors are open. If you miss, it's okay. You're not going to hell. Find a church. It doesn't even have to be this one. If you're not in this, if you're witnessing to people and you're going out trying to get them saved, you don't have to say, hey, you got to come here. You don't have to come here. You just have to go somewhere. You need to be in a church. You don't have to be there all the time, but you need to be there and surround yourself around with other people who believe like you. Because what's the iron sharpens iron? Yeah. You put yourself around people like that. You can build up your knowledge. You can build up your ability to use that power that you have. Because the power that my dad had is in those little girls back there, those little babies, that right there. That same power is in them that was in him. It's the exact same power. They don't know how to use it because they're infants, but one day they will. I think about one of the things that I've always, and I heard the story a long time ago, and it's always been an enjoyable story to me. People talk about, you know, we got stuff going on. We can't make it to church. We have a lot. We have basketball season coming up. We're going to miss a whole lot because we're going to spend a lot of time on the road, and that's okay. I think, you know, Jen said to me one day, it's okay that you're not here. That's going to be a very short season, and it's going to be over and gone, and you're going to miss it, and I probably will. But there will come a time where we will be outside of camping weekends. We will be able to be here. But I think about the story with the thief on the cross. And, you know, he was asking Jesus, you know, why are you letting them do this to you? I believe you are who you are. I know that you are what you say you are. I know that. And at that moment, unbeknownst to him, he was saved because he believed in his heart. Guess he never went to one work day at the church. He never went to one service. He never passed out a tract. He never sang in the choir. He never did any of that stuff. He didn't do anything except believe in his heart. And Jesus said, today you'll be with me in paradise. Right? That's one of my favorite stories because, you know, we do miss a lot of church. Chris and I talked about, we had a very lengthy conversation one night. Chris and I talked about going back when we were all at NAB in the very beginning. Chris and I started on the exact same path because we were all in that same walk. Chris's family was a lot different than my family. My family was very outgoing, very loving. Chris's family was very different. Not that they weren't loving, they were just different. They weren't outgoing. They were, John and Linda had their own thing going on, and they had 1,015 kids. So I was outgoing. I did sports things. Chris was just off the chart smart. And he just was locked in on education, had a path that he wanted to go on, but he stayed on that righteous path the entire time. He never got off of it. I didn't stay on the same ride. I kind of went like this. But I would come back to it every now and then. But we're at the same place in our life. Chris and I are in the same place. Chris and I want the same things for this church, for this people. And that was, I don't know how I ended up back. It's just that my father and mother prayed and prayed and prayed and kept praying and prayed. So if you have somebody out there that's not on the path and they're going back and forth and every once in a while cross it, keep praying for them. Keep praying and don't give up. When we were back in NAB and we had that same, the very rigid, you have to do this and it's got to be this way and you've got to dress like this. I'm so thankful that my dad found the grace message. I am so, so thankful because a whole lot of stuff changed. Pete, didn't it feel good to wear shorts and a t-shirt to church? And God's not going to look at Pete. There he is again in his Ron John Surf Shop shirt. He's probably not going to. I don't know if I can even let him in. Look at the way he's dressed. Or God's going to say, "There's Pete with his heart helping somebody again, doing what putting him in position, and here he is doing what I told him to do." I like his shirt. It's pretty cool. I'm probably going to let him in. Right? I don't know about you guys, but I'm very thankful that Dad was able to find that and change and grow. We talked about in the garage the other night. If you're not changing things, you're not growing. He did. Sorry, I kind of had this planned out, and I did my same path. Yeah. As Christians, we are, what does it mean to let my light shine? Your light is your testimony. It's how do you reach out to people? How do people know that you're different? When you get saved and you start building that relationship with God, people will see that. You'll see it. You'll see the benefits of it, but people will see that. And that's what your testimony is. That's your light that you need to share with people. Like I said before, it's a very, very, very dark world that we live in this day and age, and it's only going to get darker unless some things change. So make sure that your light is bright and ready to go. Surround yourself with godly people. I got one last thing I wanted to do before I finish. I don't even know if this has been 10 minutes or 40, but who can I use in here? I would say TJ, but he's almost as big as me now. I'm going to pick on Andrew. Andrew, come here for a second. Jeff, I'm going to steal your chair. I got bad knees, Andrew, so take it easy on me. Okay? This is something, we're going to go over here. This is something my dad showed us. I don't know if you remember this. When he took over the Sunday school or youth group, I guess what it was called back then. This was something that he showed me, and it's been something I've always loved. I've always enjoyed it. So. When I say surround yourself with people that are like you, it's so much easier for them to pull you down than it is for you to pull them up. So get yourself with people that are on the same playing field and have the same beliefs as you. Okay? All right, I think I'm done. I feel like I'm done. Couple things as I finish. This is a very different path for Chris and Jennifer. Chris called me, this was when Dad was still alive, about the fish fry, and started asking me, should we do this and should we do that? And I said, hey, why are you asking me? This is your show. You're the one running this now. The power of authority was passed from my father to Chris, rightfully so. Chris was here. He's been here since day one. He is the rightful heir to this spot standing right here, and he's what God has for this church and us as a people. That doesn't mean that we can't step in and help Chris, right? Chris is like I said, smart, super smart, knows the Bible in and out. Chris doesn't have the same evangelism level that my father had. Like you said, Dad did all of it. He was the teacher, he was the preacher, he was the evangelist. He was the one who started the fires and kept the church warm. He did it all. Chris is different than my father. Chris can't do all that. So he needs us not only to help him, but to pray for him every day. And everything you do, think about Chris, pray for him, and think about his wife and his family. It's a different life. As a pastor, as you know, my sisters can tell you, having a father that's a pastor, a lot of times you took the back seat and you took second place to what he had to do. And Chris is going to have to do that. There's going to come times in Chris's life where he's going to have to go and be places, and you can't be in two places at once. So he's going to miss some things. And it's going to be hard. But if we're continuing to pray for Chris and Jennifer, they'll make it. My mom made it. I don't know how she made it. It was a lot. It was a lot of prayer that went through for you, Mom. Yeah. So I'm done. I just want to say thank you for letting me share. Thank you to my wife for encouraging me and building me up. To my family, my sisters for being here to support this. Chris and Jen. Daryl. It's my favorite thing to see Daryl because how much my dad loved him. Matt Craig. Matt's been encouraging me this week and saying, hey, I'm praying for you. And he was like super excited that I'm doing this. And he's like, I can't wait to watch it. And Matt's one of my very close friends, and I love him dearly. And he's another pastor, and he could use prayer too while you're praying. Phil Miller's another pastor who I spoke with. I thought he was going to jump out of his shoes when I told him I was going to be doing this on Sunday. He was so happy and so excited. So I love those guys. They've spoken in my life a lot, and I appreciate them. And that's it.